Ladies and gentlemen, this is part 2 of Ursula. We're going to be working on her body and attaching her legs, and then we're going to be moving and taking apart her loom to do 16 columns across. Then we're going to hook her up and finish up her body. So let's begin by placing a single band on your second peg in from the left at the top. Your looms are set up in a straight configuration, 2 looms together. If you don't already have your 2 looms put together, you need to watch the video on how to do that. And our arrows are pointing towards our body. So I'm placing my first band on the second peg in from the left. Then I'm going to skip a peg and place another single band. Skip a peg and place another single band. The next set of bands will be diagonal bands, going from peg number 1, 2, 3 on the left to the black center. Then you want to go from that peg down to form another diagonal. We kind of want to just do a zigzag motion up to the other black peg. These are all singles. Down again and up again towards the black peg. So here we have a single band, a single band, and a single band, and then we've done a single band and we've kind of formed a zigzag situation. Okay, you guys see that? You need to pause the video here to catch up. Please do so. I want to take a single band and I'm going to just dangle it off this edge over here. And I'm going to take another single band and I'm going to dangle it off of this peg up here. These are going to be connecting bands when we get further down into the project. So our next step is to take 2 bands and we're going to lay those in the center area. 2 bands in the center area and 2 bands coming down our right side. Next will be 2 bands again. And we're going to do 2 bands all the way across our loom for the rest of this project here until we get down to the bottom. So it's going to be double bands all the way across our loom. Double. Double. And as I said, just 2 bands all the way across the loom. And this project is a really long project. I probably won't sit here and chat through the whole thing just because I really don't know what else to chat about. But we're going to get through this and we're just going to keep doing our double bands. Could always talk about what our favorite Little Mermaid character is. I'm not going to lie, Flounder is my favorite. I think he's just a little pudgy, cute fish and I love his actions in the movies. I'm just still doing 2 bands all the way across. And I know that you guys are going to be hating me by the end of this, but multiple people asked for a tutorial on this, and I warned you that it was going to be difficult. And we're still doing double bands. Double, 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 double. Whoops, can't get that one on there. And you guys can fast forward through this if you need to. I know some of you might lay bands faster than I do. You can fast forward till you see me change the motion here in a couple minutes. Or if you're slower than I am, by all means hit the pause button. That's why it's there. double. Ursula does take a lot of bands, a lot of black. I think I counted up somewhere along the lines of over 600. So you're going to definitely need a full pack black and some more. And then on our next to the last row, we're doing doubles again. And again. And again. I'm just pushing my loom down a little bit more. Okay, now we're going to be doing a slightly different pattern. We're going to come down our second column with 2 bands, skip the third column to the fourth with 2 bands, skip the fifth column to the sixth with 2 bands, and then we're going to do a single band. And we're going to kind of complete our zigzag here. Single band, single band, single band, single band. And because I'm going to need some connecting bands when I do my next set over here, and this is my first column that will connect up at the very end, I need to place another single band. And I need to place another single band on this bottom peg here. Okay. Next, we're going to be laying our horizontal bands. For horizontal bands, we're going to take the first 2 columns and they're getting a single band. So for the first 2 columns, starting off on the 1, 2, 3rd row down, you want to do 2 bands. 4th row down, 2 bands. 5th row, 2 bands. 6th row, 2 bands. 7th row, 2 bands. 8th row, 2 bands, 9th row, 2 bands, 10th row, 2 bands, 11th row, 2 bands, and our 12th row of pegs, 2 across, 2 bands. Not 2 bands. These were all single bands, but across 2 pegs. If I confused you, I'm so sorry. This is a single band across 2 pegs, single band across 2 pegs, single cross 2, 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 and cross 2. And we're going to come up here and we're going to connect across 3 with a single band. Single band across 3. Single band across 3. Oops, that one fell off. Single band across 3. Single band across 3. Cross 3, cross 3, cross 3, cross 3, single band across 3, and single band across 3. Okay, and now we need to finish up these last 3 here. So peg 1, 2, 3, 4. Peg number 4, 5, and 6 is what we're getting with a single band. Row number 4, 5, and 6. Coming across that 3 with a single band. Coming across with single, single, single band, single band, single band, single band, and single band. Okay. Now we are ready to loom our project, and for this project we're going to start to loom at the bottom, but before we do that we have to attach a leg. So get one of your tentacles, your legs, and you want your tentacles to be facing the bottom, so your tentacles pointing down. And these are going to go on each one of the points, and that's going to be our cap band for those. So I've just attached my tentacles down here at the bottom, and I'm just going to reach in, grab whichever one's on top, and that is not the top one. So I'm going to reach back in and I'm just going to grab the correct one that's on top, and that is going to be going off to my right. If I can get them straight again. Sorry about this, guys. So the band that is on top and going off to the right. Band that's next is going off to the left. And then your center two bands coming straight forward. You want to leave this one just dangling over the edge, push it back as a cap band, and then we're going to work our way up our left side, keeping that dangle band down, and you're pushing back on the horizontals, and we're just going to work our way up the left, pushing back your horizontal band. You don't want to loop that up in, so just work your way up your left side. And when you get up to your left side where your diagonal is, you want to stop, and then you want to reach in and push back those two bands, grab your single diagonal over to the center, and then we're going to stop right there. We don't want to loop the top portion yet. And we want to come to our second column in, and just going to be doing the straightforward looping, being sure to push back on your cap bands, your horizontal bands that are there. You don't want to grab those and loop those forward. It's pretty simple, straightforward looping here. Just continue to loop on up. And I want to stop when I meet that diagonal. So you want to stop right up here and don't loop this single at the top yet. And we need to work on our, get these out of the way, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, we need to work on our bottom portion again. Before I can loop column number 3, this column here, I need to grab and make sure that this diagonal is looped over. So you're going to reach beyond that cap band and you're going to grab the diagonal that's on the top. In this case, it's going over to the right. Now I need to reach that diagonal there, and it's going to the center or to the left, and then the two coming up to the center. Now I can go back to column number 3, reach into those diagonals, grabbing the bottom 2 bands, and we're just going to loop straight forward, right up, pushing back your horizontal band, and we're just going to continue to loop straight up until we reach our diagonal pieces again. So in column number 3, we're stopping right here, and then you want to reach into there and grab your top one, going to number 4, reach in. This should be going back to number 2, and that's going to complete our diagonal area, our V section here. So now we can finish looping that single band on column number 2. Okay, with that single band there, we're going to need to secure it with a C-clip or an S-clip, some kind of a clip you need to put in there and secure that end peg, that top peg. Okay, now I'm back down here to the bottom, and I have already loomed where the tentacles are because we needed to get to the diagonals. So I'm starting on column 1, 2, 3, 4. Reach into column number 4, grab your bottom 2 bands, and we're just looming straight forward, being sure to push back our horizontal bands, and you're just going to keep coming straight forward. If I'm looping too fast, please hit the pause button. I will slow down when I get to the confusing part, but the straightforward looping is pretty standard by now. Okay, now I'm reaching in for the 2 and I'm stopping at that diagonal. I'm stopping at the diagonal on column number 4 because I need to hook in this part. And before I hook in that part to finish off that loop, I have to come back down here at the bottom of column number 5 again. Column number 5 needs to have this part of the tentacle in it. So reach into your tentacle and you're going to grab the diagonal band over to the left. This one here is still going to be sort of dangling over the edge. It's going to have an awkward position for a little while. Reach in, grab the bottom 2 and come straight forward. That's where we want to stop, right there on this side. So for your column number 6, you only want to do that last peg. Reach into column number 5 and we're looming straight forward, grabbing 2 bands each time. You want to make sure that you don't have your horizontal bands in there. So just come straight forward, looming column number 5, and I've reached my diagonal top of column number 5, which where I'm going to reach in. The top one is going to go off to my left, my right. The next one is going to be a single off to my left. And now we can complete this single band here. And as with the other single band that we had, we're going to secure it off with a C-clip or S-clip, some form of a clip, and just let that dangle there for a moment. Now that I have everything loomed on this side from column 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, column number 6 is going to stay on my loom and not be loomed yet. This is going to be a tricky part for most of you because most of you have not dealt with this technique before with me. I'm going to show you something that a dear friend of mine, Izzylicious Designs, showed me. And we're going to be taking these 5 columns and extending them over onto this side of our loom. How we're going to be doing that is by unhooking everything up to column number 6. So you want to pull everything off your loom, lift everything up except for column number 6. And it is going to be tight and it's going to have a little bit of tension on it, but it's a pretty simple task to do. You're just going to use the back of your hook or use your hook in general. Whoop, my loom just fell apart, but that's okay. I'm going to be taking it apart in a minute. You want to lift up and pull off all of these over to column number 6. Column 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just simply take your hook and relieve them. Some of them might be a little tighter than others. Okay. Column number 5 is the tricky one because you want to keep your horizontal bands down. So you might need to hold on to a few of those for a moment while you get off the bands from column number 5. Okay, so this is going to be kind of what it looks like. Column number 6 is still on our loom. What you're going to do is to pick up the other 5 columns, slide them off your loom, and here's our column number 6 with a portion of our loom piece on the bottom, and we're going to be sliding it over and reconfiguring our loom to accept the 5 other columns. So column number 6, move your loom over. Take the other portions of your loom, be sure to line them up so that they go in a straight fashion. And in this case that one did not, so I'm just unhooking some. I'm going to move that down a little bit. I'm going to take this large portion and just snap it back on. There's no real rhyme or reason to this. You just want to make sure that you have an adequate amount of pegs securing everything together, and you want to make sure that your pegs are all still facing, the arrows pointing towards you. So I've just moved over 5 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of my loom. Now we're going to begin laying the rest of the rubber bands. We're going to skip this second column. Column number 6 has now become column number 1. We're going to skip number 2, and we're going to do a single band on column number 3, skip 4, and a single band on column number 5. Where our rubber band was, this extra dangly band, you're going to pull that down to the 3rd peg. 1, 2, 3. You're going to do our zigzag, much like we did at the beginning of the other one, with a single band. And then we're going to fill in with 2 bands and 2 bands. And then we're going to take and fill in the rest all the way down to the bottom with 2 bands. So here we go. We're just going to load the loom back up. And any part that you need to rewind and just pause and look at things, we're basically just duplicating our first steps, but it does look a little different because they're not exactly the same as the first steps. So just rewind if you need to. Otherwise, I'm going ahead with the 2 bands and just loading up the loom. Loading it up. Did I tell you it takes a lot of rubber bands? So just keep plugging away. And we're going to have to do this transfer a couple more times just to get everything in. And then I can't wait to get to the very last step because I think it's just really neat what I'm going to show you on that last step. Lost a band down here. And once again, I'm just doing 2 bands all the way down the loom. I know, fast forward through the boring part. Don't wait for me. Just keep fast forwarding. I lost another band. 2, 2, 2, and this is where we need the elevator music. Just back and forth with the la-di-das, and wish we could play music in our background sometimes, but we're not allowed to because of copyright laws. And 2 again. 2. And I must be getting a little tired because I can't even get 2 bands on the loom. Did I tell you guys that this was a long project? I did tell you that, right? I warned you in advance. Who's ready to quit on me? Okay, and this will be our last set of 2. 2. 2. 2. And 2. And then where we started with the single band at the top. That's where we're going to be doing the 2 bands at the bottom. So we're going to skip that peg and we're going to do 2 bands there because it matches up with the single band at the top, coming all the way down. And then you guessed it, we got a zigzag again. Zigzag here. And these are zigzags with a single band. Single band. Okay. And now here I had an extra band in there. This is where our extra band was. And this is going to be a little odd for some of you, but you need to hook over where that single band is. You need to hook over onto your second peg, and then you need to reach down in and just grab that little piece there and just loop it over too. And that's going to connect those pegs together. Now we can loom our first column. Reach into all that mess and be sure to push back on your horizontal band. Oh, no, 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 no. Don't do that yet. Don't do that yet, guys. Sorry. I forgot to do our horizontal bands. So for these horizontal bands, since this peg already has one on it, we need to go 1, 2, 3 down, and you're going to come across 3 pegs. 4 down, 1 band across 3 pegs, 1 band across 3 pegs, 1 band across 3 pegs. How many of you guys caught that I forgot to do that? 1 band across 3 pegs, 1 across 3, 1 across 3, 1 across 3, 1 across 3, and the last set, 1 across 3. Now we need to come across on peg 1, 2, 3, and we're going to go across 3 there, and 3 there, and 3 there, 3 there, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, across 3. Okay, and we're going to add our 2 legs because they're going to go on the farthest point, and that's what we're using as a cap band. Add our legs. Add our legs. Okay. Trying to debate what's going to be the best way to show you guys the next step, because if you'll notice here, I do not have horizontal bands connecting everything yet. I'm going to loom part of it and then do a transfer in a different way. That way it's easier to do the horizontal bands in the next step. So I know that there are no horizontal bands connecting these 2 pegs. So for the next time we loom, we're going to loom up to this peg, and then we're going to progress on after the transfer. So I want you to reach back into peg number 1, row number 1, reach down, get your bottom 2 bands, loom forward. Still row 1, push back all those cap bands and your extra bands and get the bottom 2. You want to push back on everything and you just want to pick up the bottom 2. Push back on everything and just get the bottom 2. If you need to pull some of the bands out of the way, just do so. Push down the bottom 2. Just get the bottom 2. Push back, bottom 2. Push back, bottom 2. Push back, bottom 2. Push back, bottom 2. Push everything back and just grab the bottom 2. And I need to stop there on this first row because I need to get this diagonal here before I can finish off that one. So we're going to come over to column number 2. And number 2's diagonal has already been done, so I need to move over to column number 3, and I need to do those diagonals. One will go to the right, next one will go to the left, and then 2 in the center. Now that I have this diagonal looped in there, I can go ahead and do column number 2. And if you fast forward through that and you miss hooking that diagonal, your whole Ursula will fall apart. And I know that from experience. So be sure that you always get your diagonals looped in. And now I'm up here to the top where I've reached my diagonals, and I'm going to come to the right with that first one and to the left with that next one, and now I'm able to finish up that single band, poor lonely little single band over here, and we're going to use a hook clip to secure that off. Now column number 2 is woven or loomed. We want to start with column number 3, and we're just going to reach down in there and loom straight forward on column number 3. Just keep coming straight forward. Oops. And once again, when we get up to the very top, we're going to be stopping where the diagonal is, where the diagonals gather up at the very top. We're going to stop there, and then we're going to come down here again to column number 1, 2, 3, 4. We're working on column number 4, and because I need to get this diagonal, I have to reach into my tentacle area, my cat band. I'm going off to the right with one, coming off to the left with one, and the center is 2. Now I'm ready to loom column number 1, 2, 3, 4. Reach in there, grab your 2 bands, and straight forward looming. Just keep coming straight forward. And when we get to the top, we've reached our diagonal. So we want to reach in. Top one there is going to go off to the right. And then I'm going to do my diagonal to the left. And then I'm able to complete my center. And I'm going to put a hook. I like to use S-hooks because I got fat fingers, and S-hooks are easier for me. So now column number 1, 2, 3, and 4 are loomed. Column number 5 is not loomed yet. And column number 5 will not be loomed because I'm going to transfer. So for this transfer, we're going to be pulling columns 1, 2, 3, and 4 and leaving column number 5 and 6 because I need to get these horizontals in on the next transfer, and that's going to be the easiest way for me to do it. So you want to take off your column number 1, 2, 3, and 4, leaving column number 5, leave what has become our column number 5, legs, tentacles there, and if things are just not coming unhooked for you, just simply take your hook in there and undo them. Once again, when you reach over to that column number 5, you want to make sure that you're not, you don't want to pull off column number 5 because we still have a lot of work to do with him. So you want to make sure that your cat bands are staying down, your horizontal bands. And there we go. Whoops. Actually, my two fell off, but I'm just going to loop those in right there. Okay. Now all of these pieces are off, and we're going to leave column number 5 and 6 on the big peg, and we're just taking off the other columns on the other side. And this is daunting and tedious, I know. So column number 5 and 6 are now going to become column number 1 and 2. And you just want to make sure that your horizontals are still down on there. And you want to just line up our pegs again. And there's no real rhyme or reason to getting these hooked up. I just sort of make it work. Just get it to work and make sure that things are secure at the top and the bottom when you do your transfer. As I said, there's no real rhyme or reason to it. But you want to get those things on there like so. And actually I have an extra one there I can pull out. There we go. This will give it a little bit more stability at the bottom. So we just sort of extend our loom by moving everything over. And now we've got column number 5 and 6, which are now 1 and 2. So before we can lay our horizontal bands, we need to go back to laying our single bands and our diagonals at the top. So we're going to make 1, 2, 3, a single, skip 4, and number 5 becomes a single. Now we're going to make our zigzag from column number 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and 5 to 6. And we're going to fill in with 2, and 2, and then continue to fill in with 2 all the way down the loom. And don't let me forget my horizontals once I get there. So we're just still filling in with 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and this is the daunting task that I really don't like. I hate loading up the loom. Oh, did you guys hear that big buzz? Just one moment and I'll be right back with you. Sorry for that little pause and buzzer interruption, but my film was about to stop, so I had to make a pause and a couple adjustments. But now that we're back, we're just still going to be doing 2 bands. You didn't miss anything, but maybe 1 set of 2 bands. And this is the tedious part of the job. So we're just filling up the rest of the loom with 2 bands. 2. And where is the elevator music when we need it? Whoops, I had 3 there. You only want 2 bands, guys. We don't need any more bands on this guy. On Ursula. Ursula, the sea witch. She tends to make everyone crazy. And I'm still just doing 2 bands. Nothing fancy here. I told you she took a lot of bands. I warned you in advance. And I told you she was going to be difficult. And I told you she would take 2 looms. And can you imagine if I tried to teach you guys this with just 1 loom? That would be a little difficult, a little daunting for me. Okay, next to the last row is still 2 bands. 2 bands, and 2 bands. And then where we had our single at the top, we're going to follow that all the way down, and that's going to get 2 bands. Single at the top, follow that all the way down, that's going to get 2 bands. And then we need to finish off our zigzag here, so we're going to zigzag there, and here, and here, and here, and now we can lay our horizontal bands. Finally, we're getting back to our horizontal bands. So up here on row number 1, 1, 2, 3, come down 3 pegs, and we're going to go across 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 3. 3. 3. 3. 3. 3. 3. And 3. Then we're going to go from peg 3 to 5. 1, 2, 3, across 3 pegs. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, peg 3, 4, and 5. And then we're just doing the same thing all the way down here in this area. And continue. These are all single bands. Just loom across, lay them across, make your horizontals. And then you guys guessed it, we've got an opening here for 2 bands again. We need 2 more bands, and we also have to put our legs on. So we've got a leg here, and we've got a leg there. Okay, now we are ready to loom, and we're going to loom again up to peg number 5. We're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to leave 5 and 6 open again. So we've already loomed our center portion, and we've already loomed over our diagonal. So you're pushing back all those items, and you're grabbing the bottom 2 bands, and you're going to go straight forward. Push back all that mess, bottom 2 bands, and loom forward. Push back all the mess, bottom 2, loom forward. Mess back, grab the bottom 2, loom forward. And we're just pushing the mess back, looming forward. Mess back, come forward. Mess back, come forward. Mess back, come forward. Mess back, come forward. We need to stop right there because I need to get this diagonal in before I can loop that one up. And you may have to hold on to your loom some because of the tension. So back down here at the bottom, I need to reach into my tentacles on number 3, peg number 3, and I need to do my diagonal right, and I need to do my diagonal left, and I need to do my center. And there we go. Be careful with that center one, it might want to come off a little bit on you. So now I can do column number 2. And don't forget, if you forgot that diagonal, your creation will fall apart. And just keep looming forward, pushing back your horizontal band. Going forward. 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 And I need to stop here because I've reached the diagonal. One to the right, diagonal to the right, and diagonal to the left. And now I can finish off column number 1. That single band there. And when we've done our single band at the top, we're taking our securing band and looping that in. Okay. So column number 1 and 2 are done. Now we're going to work on the rest of column number 3. Reaching down, pushing back all the mess, getting the last 2. Push back all your horizontals, and we're just working our way up the loom until we hit the spot where our diagonals are again. Push back, loom forward, back and forward. Forward. Okay, and now we've reached the top portion where our diagonal needs to come in, our other diagonal needs to come in. So I can't finish off the top here. So I'm coming back over to peg number 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I need to finish off that diagonal there. So I'm going to reach into my tentacles down here because I need to get that band in. So for my tentacles, I'm going to go to the right. I'm grabbing that one off to the left. I'm grabbing this one over to the center. And now I'm able to go back to number 4. And I'm just looming straight forward on peg number 4. Just keep coming straight forward with that. And now I'm up here to the top, but I've got a diagonal going off to the right. Now reach into my diagonal off to the left, and now I can finish my third column up by reaching in for the single and coming forward. Once again, secure off your creation at the top there with a C-clip or an S-clip, whatever kind of clip you decide to use. And now we have got column number 5 and 6 again that we need to get horizontal bands across. And I'm going to need more bands for the tentacles. I have another set I need to do still. So the next set is going to be just a single row. I need to get just one more row here. And for that row, I need to just double check that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I need one more row to make 16. So we're going to be taking off our S-clipped bands here, and we're taking off again over to row number 5. You don't want number 5 to come up. You don't want 5 or 6 to come up. Okay, and get your tentacles down here. Sorry about that, that was off camera a little bit, but you're just relieving all those up to row number 5. You don't want row number 5 to come off. Because we haven't put the horizontal bands on line number 5 yet, row number 5 yet. And actually, if you just get off a portion of them, enough so that we can just get one more peg switched over, unlock those, and we just need one more row, one more peg, so we can slide that onto there. Okay, so we just needed one more row, and for this row, you can let the rest of this just hang over that edge for a minute. For this row, you're going to take your single band on what is now row number 6. You're going to form a diagonal from 5 to 6. I'm sorry, what's going to be your last row, and then you need to form your diagonal there. And then we're going to come down with 2 bands. 2 bands. That part was a little confusing, so play that back if you need to. 2 bands. 2 bands, 2 bands, 2 bands. We're going to stop right there with the 2 bands, and we're going to we're going to come down one more time with 2 bands all the way to the end, and then it'll be a single band going from that peg to complete that peg there. Now we have enough room that we can do our horizontal bands across. We've got it set up, so let's do our horizontal bands across to complete this peg. And just loop it across at 3. Loop it across those 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, and the bottom one needs to go across the bottom 3 also. And now we have our horizontal set, so we can finish looping this row here that's unlooped. You want to be sure to reach in. We've already done the bottom one, so you want to reach in, push back all the gook, grab the 2 bands, and we're going to loom forward. 2 bands coming forward, 2 bands coming forward, 2 bands coming forward, 2 forward, 2 forward, the bottom 2 forward, and 2 forward. And don't forget, I need to stop there because I still have this diagonal I have to include in, but I can't get to that yet. So now I need to finish up these last 2 columns, and that will be putting our leg cap band on this last row. And now for that last row, this is going to be different than other movements that we've done. You're just going to reach in and get the single band that's on top and move it over to the left. Okay. Now for this column, your next column over, we're going to reach in and just loop straight forward again, pushing back our cap bands, and just keep looming forward until we get up to the top. And keep looming forward. Oops, one slid off there. I was trying to go too fast. Loom forward, loom forward. Now I've reached where I'm going to have a diagonal to the right. Reach in my diagonal to the left. And reach in, and I can now finish off that single straight forward because my diagonals are done. And there again, you guessed it, we're going to secure off with a C-clip there. Okay, so now every column is loomed except for the very last column. Now what we're going to need to do is to take everything off across. So we're going to need to leave this last column on the loom. And it's just going to be that last column. Everything else should be loomed in. If you missed a diagonal, you're going to know because you'll see it falling apart through the bottom area. Okay, so now I'm just leaving that last column on the loom. I'm going to leave that last column hooked. Okay. This is going to be different from our other movements. We're going to pick up that last column and unhook it from our base. And here we have everything on just that one column. So here's all of our layers and movements that we did before and our very last column. If you remembered in the beginning, I had only hooked in 2 of these bands. What you're going to need to do is to wrap, this is really weird, and I warned you, we're going to wrap our base underneath and now bring it over to the right side. And on this right side, we're going to match up our horizontal bands according to where they need to be on these pegs. We'll start off at the top. This was an extra band that I had to use for the diagonal area. So we don't want to do anything with that one yet. I don't want you to touch that one yet. That dangle band there, don't touch it. Reach in and get your horizontal bands. Here's one horizontal band, 2, and you can kind of see that they stick out like a sore thumb once you get moving some of the bands around. So here are horizontal bands popping out. The first one was your dangle band. You don't want to do anything with that, and we might actually just cut that off here in a couple minutes. And then this is your bottom dangle band that we had. So we should have hooks right here sticking out. You want to take that and you want to fold it over, and I'm going to turn it sideways because it's easier for me to work with it sideways. So peg number 1, 2, 3 is going to get this first horizontal band, and just loop that on there. Then peg number 4, peg number 3, got the first one, peg number 4, got the second, and then you just need to grab your horizontals and place those over the loom as you come down. So you might need to stretch it out a little bit. And here we go. We're just hooking over the horizontals. And I told you guys this was difficult. I did not lie. Hook over your horizontal. Horizontal. And of course they're wanting to stretch in their own way. Horizontal. Oops. And we've got 2 more to do. 1. And that's our dangle band. And as I said, we might just cut that off in a minute. And horizontal. Okay. Yeah, we're going to cut that off at the end. I don't think we can't really use this one anymore, so let's just cut it out of here right now. Take a pair of scissors and just cut that one right there and pull that out. Okay. So now we've got all of our horizontal bands on our one piece. And this is a little tricky because you want to try to hold down Ursula there. You want to reach into your tentacle and grab the 2 bands that are there and come forward with that. Reach down into all that mess and you're getting your last 2 bands. Reach down into all the mess and you want to get your last 2 bands. Reach beyond all the mess and get your last 2 bands. This part is a little tricky. 2 bands, reach down, 2 bands, reach down, 2 bands, 2 bands, reach down beyond all the mess in the gook. You want to get the 2 bands and 2 bands, and now we're up here to the top and we've got 2 bands. And then we can finish off with our single at the top. Don't forget to put your C-clip or S-clip or whatever kind of hook you're using in that top one. Okay, this was the extra piece, extra dangle band. It's not going to really be needed, so I'm just cutting that off too. I shouldn't have probably put those on there at the beginning, but here we've got our Ursula body on one peg. And then you just want to begin by gently pulling up and off the peg. Just pull your creation off the peg, and as you pull her off from the bottom, you'll see that the peg is coming out of the bottom. And then just gently pull out your last peg. And here we've got a oddly unique looking tubular shape for Ursula. So that is all the hard work that goes into making Ursula's fat body. And in the next video, we're going to see how to attach these top pieces, these pieces here that we clipped off. We're going to be attaching those to the upper portion of the body, and then I'm going to show you a simple trick to cinch up the bottom, and that's going to give Ursula her kind of a octopusy looking shape down here. So stay tuned for the next video.